This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to do on episode 109 of the flagship show of everything we do here at E2C Network, the Auburn Experience podcast. I'm your one of your co-hosts, Kyle, and alongside me, as always, the best co-host in the land, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Episode 109. I bet you didn't think we'd ever be able to dedicate an episode to somebody ever again now that we're triple digits.
Oh,
Chris Davis ran it back 109 yards, and I will never forget it. When you said episode 1, I did not plan that. When you said episode 109, I was like, oh, I know what that is.
I'm going to be honest. I know we didn't stay up to date with all of naming it after a person's number. It was hard to do it at times, but I was thinking, I was like, is there a way that we could make this work? And somehow, some way, my co-host lived up to his billing and pulled it off. 109 yards in honor of Rod Bramblett. And man, you got me just reminiscing about everything this week. There were some anniversaries this week too, and all that kind of stuff. 109. There you go. It's dedicated to the kick six.
There you go.
I'm sure the Bama fans that stalk and come into certain Auburn forums and see this will continue to show us they live rent free when they comment on this. All right. Episode 109. So much to talk about. In fact, a lot of what we're going to talk about in this show began even right after we ended 108. So let's not waste any time before we get into our main topics. Let's dive into Auburn potpourri, all the other Auburn news, and we're going to leave some stuff out this week that we need to touch on before we get into things. The very first thing that I have on tap for you, Austin, is did you get any snow this week with all the?
Gosh, no, there was no snow. There was hardly any ice, but there was a wintry mixed precipitation.
Mm-hmm.
It qualified us for Governor Ivey's state of emergency. So schools were out, but no snow in Auburn, sadly. It looks like maybe toward the end of January, maybe we'll get lucky. Again. Maybe. So we'll see. But I was very jealous of a lot of my family in Birmingham, of you, Kyle, in Georgia, of you attempting to sled. But it looked a lot of fun for a lot of people. I'm sad I missed it.
That was not an attempt. It was
impressive.
I went down the hill, and I won't say what happened in the attempt after that, where I nearly hurt myself. But I had a great day up here, being able to enjoy half a day of snow before everything started kind of opening up and melting everything away. But why is this related to Auburn? Obviously, we took the opportunity to create a little content for you. We created an Auburn snowman. Mine was very simple. I think it was this hat I threw on him. I think I did for another picture of the Pat Dye hat I have up here. And then a shaker. So if you're going to make an Auburn snowman, Austin, what does it have to have on? Is it as simple as that, a hat and a shaker, and that's it? Or can you do one better?
That's pretty good. I've got a scarf I really like that I got from an Auburn soccer game in college. I think I've got a scarf. So that, a scarf is a staple with a snowman, if you've got one.
Mm-hmm.
I will never have to use that scarf, I don't think, if a snowman becomes available in Auburn. So I would put my scarf. I'm trying to think of what else would be fun. Tiger tail. A tiger tail would be pretty cool.
But you'd have to put some ears on it and actually make it look like Obby or Bubby.
Bobby. There would definitely be a Bobby snowman at my house if we got enough snow. But those are good ones. I really liked yours. There would be shakers at ours for sure. I'm looking around because we would come in here. That's why I'm looking around to see what I can find.
The other ideas I would have, if you have a Tumor's lemonade cup that you saved or something like that, you could kind of make a snow lemonade cup.
I wish I had
not the yellow snow, not the yellow snow.
Not yellow snow. No, that's bad snow. My dog would do that. I wish I had a replica helmet, and you could put a helmet on top.
The problem with that is going to be that, once you put it on, first you got to form the head, and then it's going to freeze inside of there. Freeze warning. And so it would, God. I know, listen, I made it almost an entire segment without saying that, but the opportunities abound. I will tell you one last thing, Austin.
Maybe a foam finger?
Oh, that's a great, And you just gave me an idea. So if we do get snow again, I am making the commitment to you all that I will do my best to create the ultimate Auburn snowman. We got to get some solid snow that comes and stays for a little while so that I don't have to rush and make one like I did this time. But we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
If you're gonna make an Auburn snowman, what are you gonna put? What are you gonna have on him? Let us know. Maybe you'll get an opportunity in Auburn, even, and that would make it just the most ultimate Auburn snowman. Please. All right, enough with the snow. Let's talk about the thing that broke literally as we ended episode 108 live recording and frustrated me to no end in terms of that we didn't get to talk about it. But now we do, almost a week later, literally to the time it happened. The Auburn experience is so wide and vast, as we've often talked about, and we will celebrate and talk about every aspect of it here. I promise you. We did a podcast about The Bachelor because it had Maddie Pruitt on it, daughter of Chad Pruitt. Never forget. That shows you how far we'll go with this. This isn't even that far. This is one of our own. Miss America, Abby Stockard, current, I believe still current, nursing student at Auburn, former Tiger Paw, wins Miss America as we end the show. What an incredible way to get the week started, Austin.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you, Kyle. As soon as we get off the show, I'm seeing it all, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
All right.
But really awesome for Abby, awesome for Auburn. First Auburn grad to win Miss America in 30 years. Super, super cool. And always good to see Auburn represented on the big stage, especially in something like that is national and international. So very cool. War Eagle to Miss Abby Stockard. And look, the other connection there is she's got a quite tall Auburn boyfriend as well.
Yes, I was going to ask, should we bring up the not the newest, because I guess they've been together for a little bit of time, but the latest people are aware of Auburn power couple, and that being Walker Kessler, literally pretty big. I mean, he's 7'2" or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Abby Stockard, now Miss America. That's I don't know how you get more powerful than that. One of the tallest human beings around, and then literal Miss America, Miss Alabama down Miss America. How do you get bigger than that?
An NBA star in Miss America. I'm not sure there's an Auburn couple out there at its current that can beat that. So we'll see, but that's a power couple right there.
Listen, we're going to have to do a podcast of other power couples, whether they are still together or not. There are some
Mount Rushmore of Auburn couples. Hey, what have we done?
We will get there at some point in our Mount Rushmore series. And
summer will get that bad, folks.
Let's hope not. Let's hope we have plenty to talk about. But for now, we do want to celebrate Abby Stockard for winning Miss America. And obviously a connection with my wife being a graduate of the nursing school. And she was like, you better talk about it this week. So Jessica, we have talked about it and acknowledged the amazing nursing school that Auburn has. And Abby's obviously a great representation of that. So congratulations to her, and War Eagle to her. All right, we're going to go back more towards sports realm here. Another thing that we need to address from last week's show, we got done talking about it and things just started flowing. We were talking about coaching changes last week, and we broke down what we felt like was going to be, at least for a while, the future of the defensive staff and everything related to Tanner Burns. Well, later that week, I mean, maybe it was like Tuesday, was it, Austin? Something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Tanner Burns up and left us and went to take a defensive coordinator job, if I'm not mistaken, associate head coach, something like that.
Yeah, a step up for him in the coaching titles.
Mm-hmm. And so he's at another school now. So that obviously really opened things up. I think probably obviously the coaches were all privy to this was going down. Here we were sitting on episode 108. So if you want to hear us talk about something that is not true in the moment, you can go back and listen to that one. But what is true now is we are basically maybe filled out on the defensive staff because Rock Bellatoni has come back after spending a little bit of time away from us to be the offensive linebackers positional coach. He was hired by Harsin and actually stayed over during the transition period. A lot of people felt he might stay over entirely, didn't, went away, came back. So welcome back to him. We did address TJ Rushing last week, but now we've got more clarification on what he will be moving forward and fulfilling that safeties coach role for us, kind of finishing out the defensive back room for Auburn. So at this point, Austin, I want your commentary on these guys, but certainly I do think that you could make a case it may be done at the defensive realm, but I'll open up the floor for anything you want to say about Rock, TJ, the whole coaching staff.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's kind of interesting to think about a guy coming back to Auburn who hasn't had a connection before his first time here with Harsin. Definitely one of the more beloved and successful coaches that Harsin brought in. So really good to see him come back. I think he did well recruiting in the South Florida area. Did well with his outside linebackers, that edge position, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So really great to see that he's coming back. I think that's been very highly thought of among the players and among former players and on all those things. Like you said, we have some more clarification now, kind of why these moves were made with TJ rushing. The question still remains with special teams. And I think Rock did some of that while he was here and has more experience than anyone else on the staff with special teams. There's not as many limits as there used to be with who all you can have as coaches. So I think you might still see a special teams hire be out there. That's not really one. I think you have to have super pressing. Those guys aren't recruited as much specifically as the players they're using. Kickers and punters, obviously, yes, but I think Auburn feels they're in a decent shape there. So you can spend your time looking for the right guy, a good tactician. A guy who you want to fill out the staff. So definitely looks like defensively everything's filled out. Special teams, we'll have to see where it goes.
Yep. So obviously it feels like for now the coaching staff cycle, which wasn't really that active for Auburn, just kind of got a little bit confusing at times, clearly from last episode for us, but has been figured out. But welcoming back Rock, he seemed to enjoy his time at Auburn last time, and I know a lot of people, players and fans, liked having him. So round two, we're not strangers to that. Wesley McGriff has been around a couple times to Auburn and made a success out of it. So certainly it can be done. Welcome back, Coach Brock. Let's talk about another addition, and that is at the quarterback position. And I think this one this week kind of got people, I want to say stirred up, but asking a lot of questions that were a little bit premature, because we've talked about the notion that Coach Freeze likes to have 4 scholarship quarterbacks. That is straight from his mouth. So you cleaned out the whole room, whether by choice or not. You've got now Jackson Arnold coming in from Oklahoma, Deuce Knight out of the high school ranks, and then you add Ashton Daniels from Stanford. We've broken that down. You can go see our commentary on that. I think there's even shorter clips out there on YouTube if you want to get just the gist of that from former episodes. But now we add former South Carolina quarterback Tanner Bailey, who has been taking a year off from football and only played a few games for South Carolina. And I believe is already a graduate. And I forget which school he graduated from. Maybe you can clarify that for me, Austin, if you know. I don't know off the top of my head. But this is a very interesting situation where he is brought in to fill out that room, at least for the spring, because right now all you've got is 2 quarterbacks. Ashton Daniels isn't coming in until after spring practice. So you need some extra bodies in there to help with practices and stuff like that. Is that me? Do you feel like I'm diminishing that story right now, or is this the guy that's filling out that Final Four spot?
I kind of feel like it's the guy filling out that final spot.
Okay.
I just think that it's a really, really interesting scenario with Tanner Bailey, a former really good high school prospect out of Gordo High School near Tuscaloosa, the alma mater of one David Housel, who went on to actually went to Oregon, then transferred to South Carolina, and now has, like you said, transferred to Auburn, but not for football reasons. So really, really interesting path for him. But a kid that has grown up loving Auburn, his dad played at Auburn, has just had a very, very extensive love for Auburn in his background. And so I think it's very cool that he is, as of right now, the guy, the number 4 guy to come in, who has big game SEC experience, has been in the SEC program, understands what college football, big time college football is like, and can come in and kind of be a veteran type guy of how you do certain things. Now, we have no idea if Tanner Bailey will ever see the field or play meaningful minutes for Auburn football. But I think that it is a very unique and very interesting perspective that you can have with him right now. We talked about this with Ashton Daniels, a guy who has played a lot of football and is coming back to be essentially, I think we can all presume Jackson Arnold's probably the starter, but there will be competition. But a guy who's coming back closer to home and can be a mentor. I think that's a similar situation with Tanner Bailey, a guy who just wants to help Auburn win, who loves Auburn, but has been there and done things before. It is very rare you can get quarterbacks who have that experience and are willing to maybe accept a role that others wouldn't.
Yeah.
So very interesting, very cool. We'll see where his story goes. For that kid to be growing up, wearing jerseys, coming to Jordan-Hare Stadium, loving Auburn the way a lot of us do and grew up doing. For him to get to actually put on a jersey and a helmet and run out in Jordan-Hare Stadium, that tugs at my little orange and blue heartstrings.
It really does. And you've painted the picture for me now for this, wonderful story. So I'm going to love every part of this now that I kind of have that context. The other context that I was lacking is I wasn't aware that he was at Oregon first. So you're telling me that someone went from Oregon to South Carolina to Auburn. Who else did the reverse of that? Oregon to Auburn to South Carolina and was a quarterback.
And now Wake Forest.
And I was going to leave that part out of it.
For your story, I've ruined your metaphor there.
Come on now.
Maybe this is the reversal, though, and Tanner Bailey will end up being a first-round pick for an NFL team. Play a playoff game today. Who knows?
I don't know, something like that. You're just going to bring them all in at this point. And here I am knocking the microphone around. But it's an interesting story no matter how you slice it. His connections back to Auburn family, how he got here, different routes, things like that. But for now, we can assume quarterback room full. We'll wait and see if anything else changes in the future. I'm going to do an audible on us because we are running low on what our usual time is for potpourri. We did want to talk about 2026 wide receiver Devin Carter out of Douglas County, who just committed to the Tigers. We'll probably move that to next week if it still fits into our schedule, but just know that we know that's happened, and we'll certainly try to dive into that a little bit more next time around. But for now, let us switch gears a little bit here. We have covered potpourri and moving in to our major topics. But first, let me ask you something. Do you understand the concept of mental wealth? Some would define it as the management of elements that you have in your personal life, such as your diet, your sleep habits, your exercise, or those stress levels, and how you sustain those for an overall positive effect in your life. You can try your best to balance them on your own, and some of you are able to do so, but for people like me and others, you might need a little bit of extra help. The key is to find that tool that doesn't fight against you managing those different elements that are important to your daily life. And we talked about our friends before at Magic Mind. They've really made a difference for me. And they've been helping me function a lot better during the day and feeling distracted or overwhelmed sometimes with the life of a content creator, because it can be a little stressful at times. But now let me tell you about the Magic Mind Sleep Elixir. I found it helps me get wound down from a day of stressful trying to figure out what we're going to put out on social media for you all, because we got to figure out what's going to stick and things like that. A little bit more about the Magic Mind products. Their performance shot is not just a replacement for your daily coffee. If you're a big coffee drinker, you can actually do it alongside your coffee. It helps makes those effects of the coffee last a bit longer. That sleep elixir I just talked about helps you wind down, as I said, from a day of mental focus into a deeper sleep. And you can combine these now into a first-time 24-hour bundle for focus and sleep shots, which is available now. Get 45% off of that bundle, the Magic Mind bundle, with our link, magicmind.com/theauburnjan. Once again, that is 45% off the Magic Mind bundle with our link, magicmind.com/theauburnjan. If you're ready to give it a try and invest in your mental wealth and resilience for 2025, make sure you check out Magic Mind products. First major topic tonight, Austin. We are going to do what we typically do here during this time of year and do a little bit of focus on basketball. The week that was in Auburn basketball.
What a week.
We talk about roller coasters, Austin, a lot in the Auburn experience. And I think this week right here, you need nothing else just to signify what it's like to be an Auburn fan. Sheer elation, moments of celebration, and sheer disaster and dreading of what might be if the worst happens. So we're going to take you step by step through it. Just as a quick summary, Auburn had two big wins. Both got a little bit interesting at the end. Texas did. South Carolina gave us all we could stand, both on the road. There was a big milestone reach for Coach Bruce Pearl. And then we do have an injury, which right now seems to have as a best outcome as possibly could for Janai Broome. We're going to touch on all those different things, but let's walk through it chronologically, Austin. just recounting that has made me kind of have a little PTSD from this week. Texas. Did you think we were going to get off to the good start that we did against Texas in the first SEC game?
I thought that it was impressive to me. But I feel like, and I think you put this out, if you're not sure that the SEC, and especially playing on the road in the SEC, is not a gauntlet, the Texas game should have proved that to you. The South Carolina game should have proved that to you as well. But I was surprised to see us start out so well. I don't know if that got to us ourselves as the team went on, but that was going to be a fight. And just like I think every SEC road game and home game will be a fight this season, they're going to be down to the bitter end, and you got to be thankful for which ones you come out on top of.
Yeah, it's wild watching how strong the SEC is this year. And I keep trying to tell people this, and it fascinates me that some people don't still grasp this, because I saw it all the week leading up to Texas and leading up to South Carolina. The Auburn's just going to roll over. And I'm like, roll over these people. I'm like, it's not going to happen that way. Mm-mm. Trust me on this. If you know nothing else, know that the Auburn experience is a roller coaster ride. That in and of itself should tell you this is not going to be easy. But coming into Texas, obviously probably one of the teams that hasn't done as much as maybe some people expected them yet, but still showed you that you're probably catching them at one of the best times to catch them. If they get some things together, they could be a little bit more formidable as things go down the line. Certainly it is frustrating, Austin, to watch what was a very easy win in about the final 5 minutes of the game get erased. Do you think it was what was about to happen should the Tigers win that kind of got in their heads, or was it just that Texas responded? What do you think?
I think it was more a Texas response probably, and I think you have to admit that if this Auburn team has a kryptonite, it is not being able to close out a game against a talented opponent super strongly. Like keep maintaining the lead they have, or maintaining it enough to where it's a healthy margin. They have tended to allow talented teams to kind of come back on them a bit. And I think that's what you saw with the Texas game. Obviously a place they've never been before. Mm-hmm. Obviously opponent they've never played before in as a conference member. Right. And Texas had incredibly talented athletes. Kaluma had a career game, which if you're watching as an Auburn fan, you should, of course he does.
Of course he does.
And they've got Trey Johnson, who's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. You knew the things were there. Rodney Terry's an incredible head coach. You knew the things were there. And now what we know that they've lost to Tennessee as well. This team is not an 0-3 SEC team. They are on paper right now, but they are not as bad as it sounds. And I think that it's just a matter of Auburn keeping composure and something that still needs to be harped on. Now, I'm not saying all that as a negative thing. I think that's a great thing, honestly, to tell you the fact that Auburn can still be told constantly by its coaches and constantly harped on throughout the week, hey, guys, you're not world beaters yet. This was a team you had beaten by double digits, somewhere around 15, and you let them get back in and get within a one possession game at one point.
Yeah.
So that keeps them focused. It keeps them composed. Because I don't think that's out of the question for that to happen again down the road. The Auburn will be ahead on a team, and it'll be up to them to determine if they close them out or if they let them creep back in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, they do get the win, which secures the history that we want to take a second and spend some time on. You are now looking, when you look on your TV or in person, if you're not in the room with us, Bruce, listen, somebody got the tweet shared from one Coach Pearl this week. I'm not gonna say who it was, but that was a big surprise this week. But what we really want to focus on is when Coach Pearl arrived here, and they've seen the clip this week. He said, while acknowledging some of the other greats, Coach Sonny, Joel Eves, Cliff Ellis, I want to be among them. I want to be the winningest basketball coach in Auburn history. And today he is that with the win over Texas, 214 wins, now 215, as we'll talk about in a second. He is your winningest basket. He's the greatest Auburn basketball coach. Can we just go ahead and say that right now?
Absolutely.
No question. It's done. It's over with. Certainly we had a little bit of drama with that, but did you think when Bruce Pearl said that we would be sitting here today?
No, I mean, when you when you think back on that moment and you think back on that introductory press conference, obviously there was so much excitement and so much hype. But the fact that it actually came to fruition is another thing. You can say that, and let's be honest. At the time he says that, it's like, well, it wouldn't take you very much to, like there is a obviously a very successful certain portions of Auburn's men's basketball's program history, but is at that point was in a very, 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 very low spot in the conference on the university level, and so to see him actually do it and to see all the success, all the championships, the Final Four run, all that he's come with it. I think we all knew a little while ago that this was coming. It wasn't a shock that he got here after the first 5 to 6 years of him being here. It was inevitable, but it's well deserved. I'm so happy and so excited to know that he is the winningest coach in Auburn men's basketball history, and I hope that there are many, many, many more to come from him, and plenty more rings or nets to have as well. So, Kyle, does he deserve a statue? Does he deserve something else? How do you open this act? How do you celebrate this accolade? Now, I'm not saying this year, but I'm saying, how do you celebrate this accolade properly down the road?
You're opening up a topic that we could spend so much time on.
Just give me your short answer. Short
answer. Yes. Statue someday, naming of facility in some fashion.
The court.
The court. I think
would like to name the court.
Bare minimum court. We statue. I tried to talk about this this week on TikTok streams. It came up a lot, and I've said I think there's a certain progression of things that have to happen in most circumstances, towards a statue. I do think that is a topic that is very well worth us discussing, though, about how you officially honor the greatest basketball coach in Auburn history, at least in wins alone. But we're here. We're sitting here. It's done. Check mark. Move on. As Trevon Reed says, he ain't done yet. Rounding out our week, South Carolina, very briefly. Certainly a team that Auburn was expected to just come in and roll over, being the prospective number one team, at least in thought process. No official polls yet because Tennessee had lost. Everything's on the table for Auburn. They've already gotten over the Bruce Pearl victory for becoming the winners coach hump. And even South Carolina was missing a bunch of their players. And yet South Carolina did what they normally do in basketball against us, is we walk in there and they give us problems. Normally that's because Frank Martin was there, but he's not there. Now they have Lamont Paris, who was only the reigning SEC coach of the year, and gave the Tigers everything they could stand and then some. One very important thing we're going to address here, but I think you got to give credit to South Carolina because down to the last few minutes, Auburn looked like they were going to be in a really big trouble to drop the ball of becoming the unequivocal number one.
Yeah, absolutely. The South Carolina team was a top 4 team in the league last year, and one that was a dark horse kind of throughout the year. I can't remember if it was Lamont Pierce's first year or his second year last year.
I think it's second. I could be wrong.
Okay, so he's in his third year now, but a really good basketball coach, one that Bruce Pearl praised a lot last year. Definitely still doing it. Has talented players. Chad Murray Boyles, I think. It was so confusing me. They kept calling him CMB when we have CBO.
I know, it was so bad.
I kept being like, I think they're getting that wrong.
If they would just call him the physicist, we wouldn't have this problem.
Dear goodness. But that team, and gosh, that arena has one that has just given Auburn fits over the last 10 years. It's just been annoying. It's been a place you don't want to go play. And if you can get a win, you get the heck out of there as fast as you can. So yeah, proud of Auburn for being scrapped and coming back and winning. But gosh, it is not fun to play there. Not fun to play against the Lamont Pierce South Carolina team.
And, if it wasn't for, somebody crumbling like the chip that they're named after, this might be a different story. Certain former Bama players not knowing how to make free throws. Sound familiar? Anyway, the Tigers get the victory. They do, on paper, secure number one. Let's talk about the injury in a second, but let's just talk about it right here. Is Auburn the number one team? Obviously, we're talking about this the night before the polls come out. Is there any case where you can make Auburn's not the number one team for anybody?
Well, I would say no, but I've seen the AP mess it up before. So when you look at the fact that Tennessee lost this week and Auburn didn't, you would think it'd be shoo-in. Some of these AP voters, I'm convinced, don't watch a lick of basketball on game day. But if Auburn's not number one tomorrow, there's a major problem, and I would like to never associate myself with the AP poll again. So Auburn basketball should be number one again, the second time ever, and the second time in Bruce Pearl's era. But they should have already been number one, but I'll stop.
Here we are on that roller coaster ride again. We had the high. Now we're going to talk about the low, and now we're about to hopefully have that high again. So what is coming at the end of this thing? I do want to know, because I love this roller coaster ride, but just saddle up, folks. Number one, hopefully on deck next. Here's the big thing. Johni Broome with his second, quote unquote, major significant injury of the season. The first time being that elbow, the different elbow that he'd injured in the past. He comes back the game after that, even because there was a long delay during the non-conference play. So thankful that he was overcome that. But here he trips over some feet coming down from a rebound situation and does that classic, you roll your ankle thing. I can't watch these things, Austin. Like, I've had so many rolled ankle injuries from playing basketball all my years. It's just, I cringe every time. And I was begging SEC Network, please stop showing it. I get it didn't break, but please stop showing it. Please stop showing that agony on Johni Broome's face. The shoulder situation was bad, but this one was that immediate, just I'm in pain, and you had to feel bad for Johni.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it wasn't a break, but we didn't know at that point.
Right.
And so I was surprised they showed as many times as they did. But like you said, I got worrisome when I saw his reaction and that kind of, oh, my foot doesn't look like it's supposed to look, kind of worry. And obviously we weren't privy to what all he was thinking or what we could have the best angle at it. But definitely one of those, or the second time, I guess, this season, feeling we're like, did we just lose our guy? And it looks like, from what Auburn has put out, we might not have for the rest of the year, but there's a significant time component here that we'll have to see how long it is.
Yep.
But I think it was an official ankle sprain.
I have the official statement. Yeah, this is the official from the SID for men's basketball. Auburn senior All-American Johni Broome underwent an MRI this morning which revealed a non-surgical ankle sprain. Others have reported via their sources that was confirmed a low ankle sprain, which is the better of that. Yes. High ankle sprains usually are worse, require more recovery. Low ankle sprains are pretty bad too. Personal experience here, but we're talking about games as opposed to, I think, weeks, month. Now, this is the second this year injury that he has had. I would much rather they take it slow with Johni. They didn't last time, and it worked out. So I'm not going to question the staff or anything like that. But this ankle injury we got to have this guy ready to go.
Yeah,
I'm worried for him.
I agree. I think that this is going to be something that they understand just how big ankles are for big guys, especially. Not to say a shoulder or elbow is not, but it's a different world when you're messing with, or you're talking about something you have to, he's running up and down the court. Sure. If it were me, and I have no medical background at all whatsoever, my sister and my father have that in the family, and they're far better than I am, far smarter than I am too. If it were me, I'm saying, let's just hold out until February 15th in Tuscaloosa. That's a whole month.
Wow.
I recognize that's a long time, but I think with these ankle sprains, from what I understand, there's so much importance placed on the rehab and recovery, how aggressive he can be with that. Now, we all know the competitor Johni Broome is, and we know that he wants to be back out on the court. Heck, he came back out physically on the court just to be a part of the final seconds.
What a great shot.
And for the prayer.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. And so I think that there's no one else who wants to be out there for Auburn and out there for his brothers than Johni Broome. But he definitely needs to make sure he's all right and all figured out. So if it's me, there's a tough slate coming up. There's a tough slate in the next month, but there's also, I think, high aspirations for this team to do things at Auburn where they love to say they want to make history, right? For Auburn to do. I would be crushed if it costs him National Player of the Year. But I think that there are big things on the horizon for this Auburn team, and a few games without him might not be the worst thing.
Which is a great point.
We all know how deep this team is, and they pride themselves on that. But at this point, people are going to have to step up to replace an All-American presumed National Player of the Year at this time is not going to be easy. So for Dylan Cardwell, Chaney Johnson, Jaheim Hudson, those guys are going to be tested against some major competition here over the next couple of weeks without him.
if you want to shut down all detractors about whether Auburn is worthy of the number one spot, and they're going to take a loss, folks. Like, you need to go ahead and prepare yourself. This, whether
with or without them,
with or without. So that's going to come, and that conversation is going to continue throughout the year. But if you want to continue that narrative and prove that we are for real, this is the opportunity for the team to do that. What happens? I've been asking this question all week on social media. What happens to this team when you lose the National Player of the Year as things currently stand? What happens to this basketball team? They answered test number one, being already down to South Carolina at their place with all the momentum that they had and losing him. They passed that test. Can they continue to do that? Only time will tell. But that's a good thing about a whole season. You play it out and you get the full narrative and you don't just react to one instant. But for now, Janai got about the best prognosis we could expect or hope for based on what we saw, and we'll continue to monitor and update you guys as updates come. But good luck to the team in the meantime.
Yes.
Let's move into our final major topic this evening. And this is one that I didn't expect us to have to talk this week, but I am so happy because it's the perfect thing for what we're about here, the Auburn experience. And this is the weekend, A-Day weekend, that I think is your best opportunity to experience what David Hassel called the whole of the Auburn experience. And that doesn't even begin to display all aspects of it. This is just the sports angle of it and how you can get a lot of things at once. So Auburn came out on a Sunday and said that they were going to go ahead and give you the dates for A-Day weekend, go ahead and acknowledge all the sports that were going to be active during that time, and obviously officially say A-Day game is going to be happening. So we've got all the information for you, but I got to ask Austin, are you just jazzed up as I am for the best weekend in Auburn sports?
Really cool, and definitely kind of on the piggyback about the best weekends. Now basketball season will be over at that point as a whole, not just the home schedule. And so, but this is, if you can't make it during basketball season, this is your time. This is the weekend to do it, and
hopefully better weather.
Hopefully far better weather. We'd like it to be a little cool, but not too cold, not blazing hot.
75 is a high?
Always. If you ask me, I'm always saying 75. Okay. I'd prefer 75 no matter what. It will be the week after Auburn wins first national championship in men's basketball history. It's going to be a phenomenal weekend in Auburn. No, but seriously, and look, I'm gonna freaking mojo this by saying it, but I mean, there will be a celebration you can add to that weekend.
It just hit me.
If we can keep going, I'm just saying that's something that you could add.
Austin, Austin, you just, first of all, you've jinxed us. I just want to acknowledge that. Y'all have heard it here first. But can we just play the what if? Let's say Auburn does win a national championship. Can you have picked a better layout for the weekend to also have a celebration of that on campus?
You want a bold prediction?
Go ahead.
If they do it, they'll break the 8-day record that was done in 2013.
Oh, don't say that, because you can't break the last roll. That hurts.
They'll break it.
Oh, goodness. I love it and I hate it at the same time because I have so many fun. I mean, literally.
But we got to get there. We got to beat the first round Ivy League school. We got to get there. So
why'd you have to bring that up?
You got to bring us all back down.
You had a great idea. Now you just ruined it with more cannon fodder for the Alabama fans that lurk around here. Okay, let me give you the info that we have on hand right now about 8-Day weekend. Keep in mind, we are literally doing this a month in advance. I almost said August because I'm wishing it's football season already. No, your official weekend dates for 8-Day are as follows. That is going to be April the 11th through April the 13th. That is a Friday to a Sunday, as it traditionally is. To acknowledge what usually kind of coincides around this time, that is not Easter weekend. It is Palm Sunday weekend, but it will be the Masters weekend. So just want to give you guys the heads up on that. I know that's a big deal for some of y'all. I don't understand why, but hey, shout out to the Auburn men's golf team and women's golf team. I know it's important to them. We have active that weekend, obviously football with the 8-Day game. We also have baseball. We also have softball. We also have women's tennis. I mean, come on. You got the Diamond Sports back together, Austin, on the same weekend. When's the last time that happened? Did it happen last year? Am I mistaken?
There was a lot of a lot of switching around last weekend.
Like one or the other.
So I feel like I'd be hard pressed to say it didn't happen the whole year, but or at least an SEC play, right? But
Well, I'm just talking about for A-Day weekend, like having the both.
oh yeah. No, that's been a long time, if in a while. So really cool. That is the weekend to be here. And like Kyle said, we've got to start praying for the best weather possible right now.
If we can, Austin, if we can have, again, we are just speculating. This is knocking on wood. If there's a celebration that were to happen after something happened a week before, alongside amazing weather with all these things happening,
you can't miss it, people.
I mean, just can't miss it. You can't miss it regardless. But anyway, okay. So here is your scheduled events. Friday, softball, and some of these are going to be tentative. There's a little bit of question about softball based. I looked at some official calendars, and I think A-Day kickoff time, but we're going to give you what we have at this point. Softball on Friday at 1:30. This is all Central Time. Women's tennis versus Ole Miss at 5. Sorry, I got that wrong. Baseball, first game versus LSU in a series at 6 p.m. that night. Saturday, the tentative, based on the calendar I saw, time for A-Day seems to be noon, which makes a lot of sense if softball does play their second game versus UGA at 1:30 that day. And then baseball would play again at 6 p.m. Central Time against LSU. Sunday, women's tennis at noon, also senior day for them, versus LSU as well. Baseball at 1 to final game versus LSU, and then softball's final game versus UJ. Again, tentative seems to be 1:30, so that's a very jam-packed end of the day. We might, Austin, based on your schedule.
I was about to say this.
You know what I was going to say.
I was about to say, and 2:30 in person E2C episode number 128.
Good try. I don't know what it is, but
know.
That sounds good to me. We'll talk about it. Certainly, that may be on the table for you all as well. I mean, doesn't that sound just awesome?
That's a great week. That's a great weekend right there, regardless of what happens on the shooty hoops. That's a great weekend right there, and it always is. A-Day weekend is always a lot of fun. A lot of people come to Auburn. A lot of people, regardless of who's playing in town, there's always at least something happening going. A lot of people get to be on campus.
Yeah.
It's usually a pretty time of the year. So that's a weekend you want to go ahead and pencil in. It's like 3 months away right now. So it'll be here before we know it.
Right. And we'll certainly talk about this some more because there'll be announcements for other events that I'm sure, with large or small, that are going to be transpiring in and around it. Usually we get the additions to the Tiger Walk out on downtown announced for that weekend. So we'll come back to this probably 2 weeks or so in advance, whenever it feels appropriate, and talk about it in some more detail. But we wanted you to have the details. April 11th through the 13th. A-Day takes place. A-Day game obviously on the 12th. Looks like it'll be around noon right now is what a tentative date looks like unofficially. It might be there. And you got a lot of rivals in town for all the sports outside of the football game. LSU and Georgia. If we had Alabama here for women's tennis, that would have made it perfect. But you get Ole Miss if you want, for one of them, if you want to throw them in there. Listen, I know that a lot of you are frustrated with the Masters having to be on the same day, at least if I looked at the dates correctly. Is that a big thing for you, Austin? Like,
I will have it on. Like if I'm at home, it's just one of those things. I'm a sports junkie enough that I like to know what's going on. I really don't even pay attention to it until like Sunday. I have a group of friends. We usually just pick a winner that we think earlier in the week, and I'd like to see how that person does. But it's something that if someone asked me to go to one day, I would love to go to, just like a similar thing, sports junkie enough to bucket list moment. But definitely doesn't, move my needle for Auburn A-Day weekend.
Well, you might have to miss Auburn A-Day because it sometimes coincides with it if you plan to do that. But if you got some tickets to it for free, I might understand, because it seems to be the big thing that a lot of Auburn fans pay attention to and lament if it does fall on the same weekend.
When Jackson Coyven wins it, I'll be all in.
Hey, if we can relate it back to that, the Auburn experience will definitely do that. Here's a great idea. I want to see tailgates similar to game day. Why not have a tailgate and watch the Masters before and after that, and make it a big thing in Auburn? Like, let's get this going. I'm telling you right now, folks, I know I'm asking for a lot, but it would just do my little orange and blue heart so much good to see RVs out there, similar to maybe one of the smaller games during the football season, and have that throughout the weekend. Like, it would just be so awesome to see the Auburn family respond that way. If a certain event happens, we will definitely see that. But Only time will tell. But
I
for
want
now,
that for so many reasons, but for that might be in the top 5 reasons I want it.
we just need to stop talking about it. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. 8-day weekend. You have it set, and we look forward to going to that in the near future. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us for episode 109 of the Auburn Experience podcast. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24, where you can watch sled videos and snowman videos and whatever else I feel like putting up there, shenanigans and things like that. Where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, at Austin. There is no snow pictures, no snow videos. Probably won't be for quite some time. Kyle, I did want to ask you this one question. Did it snow while you were a student ever?
Yes, and
Okay.
we should talk about that in more detail because it was an incredible snow day.
It's
One of
going
the
to
best
get
I've
cold
ever had.
again here in like 2 weeks. So maybe if that
Pin
happens
slipping.
again, if we get that, we'll talk about that. But it snowed while I was here too, and I thought about that a lot seeing it like videos.
I don't think you had the snow day that I had.
No, I know what you had because I was stuck in high school, but I know exactly what you had.
We just showed our age between each other right there. So anyway, thanks for hanging out. Till we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.